the main thing, or the main front end of our business, can be broken down into 7 steps. And if you've done the 7 steps we're taking, does everyone know what I'm saying when I say 7 steps we're taking? I just want to make sure. Is this the first? Is there anyone that was like, this is the first I've ever heard this? Say mod 4, just in case you're worried. Okay, so this is really where it comes into play. Because this step 1 is your call number 1. So this call number 1 can either be you or your VA. Right? This is main job is to generate a lead. Right? That's your number 1 job. So if I go and I say, and I look at this and I say, okay, well, if I'm not getting enough leads, then this is where I got to start. This is where everyone goes, I hate cold calling, right? You guys are all past that, but this is where I hate cold calling, right? Because in order to generate leads, we look at things like dials, live, or also known as contacts, dials, live, and that's your conversion because then it's dials, live, leads. And then I know you guys are advanced, so you can even put yourself in the position where it's like, okay, if I have an acquisitionist, this is what I'm looking at when I'm talking to them, or a seller specialist, as we call it. Because at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to step number 1, which is get a lead. And we do that by making dials, by looking at how many people are live, looking at those conversion rates, and then live to leads. So if I'm looking at this right now, right? Raphael's live to leads is about 33%, his VA, right? It's about 33%. James, I don't think we did how many of those were live, those 100 versus the lead. I don't know if you have that. Same with you, Kristen, if you guys have those numbers.
Yes, I have mine. The actual dials were 544 and the lives are 78.
78 live, okay. So if we look at Kristen's, and we start using our trusty calculator, it's 78 divided by 15. I'm sorry, 15 divided by 78. It's 19%, right? So you have 19% conversion rate. I won't go through all of these, but this is what I'm looking at. 19% conversion rate. So I start to look, there's 2 things that can happen if I want to get more leads. I can either make more dials at the same conversion rate, because we can't control live. We can to a point, right? There's probably going to be certain times of the day that are a little bit better than others. There's certain lead sources that may be better than others. Like my guess, and I don't have the exact data on this, is that a for sale by owner is going to probably have a higher live rate than an expired listing. An expired listing will probably have a higher live rate than a cold list. Like a niche list, like something you'd pull on PropStream, would be my guess. So we can make more dials, or we can look to this and say, well, if I've talked to 78 people, how can I get 16 leads next time? How can I get 17? How can I get 20? Because the difference in leads, although it may be 1 additional per week, it's 52 additional per year. And if we look at that, that may be an additional deal, which could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 added to your revenue and your business. That's why I want to walk through this, because now it's, as I look at this as a business consistently, I'm looking at the numbers not with like, so if your numbers aren't good right now, I'm not looking at this with judgment. I'm looking at it, how do I get better? How do I learn from what's happening right now in my business? So you got, say Raphael at 33%, his VA is doing rather well, and you got Kristen at 19% on her own. So how do we increase that? Because that's going to generate more leads. And I'm encouraging you to look through this with a fine-tooth comb as we continue to plow through it. So when you look at step one, it's lead. So that's being your 7 steps to taken. Your second step then is just all we're trying to do is just move it one step. Nothing crazy, because in your call number one, what you're doing is you're getting information, and you're now going to send more information, but also you're going to get them to commit to a follow-up call. So all we're doing in the second step is an email. And the reason why we're doing this is because with creative financing, if you haven't realized yet, a majority of this has to do with education. We have been taught since we were young kids that there's one way of doing real estate deals. You work really hard, you get a good job, then you go save up some money, and then you go buy a house with a bank, and you put down X amount of money down, and then you live in that house for 30 years until it's paid off. So now we're re-educating, and I don't even know if that's a word. If it isn't, it's a Zachism. So now we're going to educate them with the email. So I'm not going to try to one call close. I'm just going to educate them with an email, so that way I can get on my follow-up call. And that would be step number 3. So when I'm looking at this and I go back to my metrics, this is where we're going to really be able to decipher, okay, how many leads does it take to get on an appointment? Now that's determined by your follow-up call. Because what is the follow-up call's job to do? It's to do 2 things. One is to make sure any misunderstandings or any objections that they now have, now that the seller understands how you're going to buy the house, handling all their objections, including painting the picture of what that would look like for them. And then most importantly, it is to then book an appointment. Number 4 is the appointment itself. This is where when we look at the numbers and we say, okay, well, working through this, all right, so if you got 50 leads and no appointments, well, then obviously our follow-up call is the problem. I know Raphael already talked to us about that, but that's the gap, right? There's your gap. That's what we need to work on. If we believe we have enough leads, which means our conversion rate's good at the lead, at the top of the funnel, now we gotta look at the next layer in the funnel, which would be the appointments. So if I'm looking at James, and I'm saying, all right, so it's taken him 45 leads to book an appointment. According to these numbers, right? I don't know if that's like what the big picture looks like, but according to these numbers, 45 leads to book an appointment. Then, all right, well, now let's start looking at that. Because if historically, we like to see somewhere between, say, 10 and 15 leads per appointment. So then I look at this, and just like James said earlier, it goes, okay, are these leads qualified enough and actually to move them to an appointment? Are they so am I padding it, or is my conversation in my follow-up call, am I not clear enough with my script in order to really book that appointment, make somebody feel comfortable? Well, the other indication could be maybe I'm not pulling the trigger on appointments because I'm overqualifying them, which could also be a potential. Where it's like, I'm not going on this appointment unless I know that they're like 100% going to say yes. And in some circumstances that works, other circumstances it doesn't. I mean, I always ask this to people, and I always say, okay, if I know this is a bit, say, either gruesome or wild, right? If I put a gun to your head and I said you have to close a deal, would you be more confident closing the deal on the phone or in person?
In person.
Exactly. So my guess is a majority of people would say in person. Not everyone, but a majority. So if I'm just beginning this business and I'm not seeing a bunch of takens, then I'm more likely to underqualify someone in order to get in front of them, because I believe I'm going to be able to make a bigger impact if I get in front of them. That's how a lot of students like Steve generate momentum. I used to do the same thing. I like to move, right? There's a feeling that's associated with booking an appointment when you actually leave your house or leave your office and you go out there and see your house. It feels like momentum. So if you're ever looking to generate momentum, book more appointments. So That's what I look at when I see this. I say, okay, well, according to James right now, it's like, all right, we got 45 leads per appointment. And I was like, how do we get that now to a third of those leads turn to an appointment? So like getting that down to the 15 lead range, because now that generates 3 appointments. And according to James's numbers, I know he got some additional offers there. According to James's numbers, if he goes on appointment, he gets to take it. So we just gotta get 1 more appointments. You guys tracking with me so far? I know some of this may be redundant, and some of this may be like, wow, all right. So when I look at this again, all I'm trying to do is find out where the hole in my business is right now so I can attack it. And I'm doing that by breaking it down into really simple steps. Because all I care about is just moving this 1 step at a time. Nothing crazy, just 1 step. You don't got to go from lead to taken. You just got to go from lead to email to follow-up call. Okay, so once we're then on the appointment, some of these steps actually will eventually condense, because then it's, all right, if I have an appointment, I'm trying to make an offer, so now I'm just going to do my research or my comps. And if you notice, I didn't do a bunch of comps before I went on the appointment. I want to see the house. I want to have a good understanding of where the seller currently is. So that way I don't go in there with misconceptions, right? If I go look at comps and I go do all this research and I show up at the house and then they start telling me stuff, I then may get combative because I'm like, I have all this information that tells me what you're telling me is probably not real. So instead, I just like to go in with a clean slate. My doctor was like the same way. He says, I never look at your file when you come in. I just want to have, this is the engagement. So that way I can make a judgment of today. And then after I do so and I work and I have a big dialogue with them, now I have an understanding where they're at. And then I say, all right, now in order for me to do something, I just need to ask you a couple questions. One could be, what's the least you're willing to take for this property? Even if they've already told me, I'd want to make sure I'm walking with the mortgage information if there is one. I'd want to know what the least they're willing to take for a monthly payment. I want to know the longest term. I just need to know where they're at. So then when I tell them, hey, I'm going to have to go do some research in order to make sure that this all checks out, I'll get back to you. But once I leave the appointment, then I go do my research. And that's step number 5. Now, once I have gone through step number 5, now I'm going to go ahead and make my offer. It could come in the form of one option, meaning you could send out just a lease purchase or just the owner financing. Or you could do it in the form of multiple options. Depends on what you've agreed to. I know Brian's a big fan of and talks a lot about, all right, I'm basically going to have the seller present me the deal, so then I don't have to really worry about making an offer. But sometimes the sellers aren't all going to be like that. So now at this point, you now have multiple options or one offer, and that's your number 6. And then the last one, of course, now you're sending out a contract once they have accepted the offer. And that, of course, comes to your taken, which is your number 7. So if I could kind of wrap things up at this stage, and that is looking at your current businesses and where they currently stay, even though we're looking at like a 3-week, 4-week window. The way in which to operate for the most efficient perspective is look at where your leads are and figure out which one is closest to a taken. Right? So if I came into the office each morning, I would say, which leads are closest to a taken? Like if I went on an appointment the day before, I want to work on that one first because I want to get it to a taken as soon as possible. Then I start working on my follow-up. Then I start working on my new leads. I'm always working closest to the property under agreement.